Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I promise I'm officially here to start the event this time, so procedural notes at the end. We're so thrilled you're here tonight, or today rather. This is an afternoon event. Thank you very much for being here in such great numbers. We're delighted that this could all come together. We're so very grateful to Doubleday Canada for publishing this book and for making this afternoon a possibility, and so happy to be able to share it with all of you. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we are here, of course, in Treaty 1 territory. The land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Niniwak, Anishinaabe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. McNally Robinson Booksellers itself rests on the land once occupied by the Métis community of Roostertown. Some of you may have heard that we are here to spend the afternoon with Alan Doyle, who is lurking at the back right now. We'll be calling him up in just a moment. I'm going to make you a block room at least twice more, possibly more. He is here to celebrate the smiling land all around the circle of My Newfoundland and Labrador. And we couldn't be more pleased. He was playing last night, he's here today, and the fact that this worked out is just so delightful. I'm going to get out of your way in just a second. I'll be back at the end with some signing notes. So please, I know many of you have suffered through that already, but we'll ask you all to remain in place at the end of the event for just a moment, because if we can't get Alan into the signing table, nobody's getting books signed. So thank you so much in advance for that indulgence. But right now, I have the incredible pleasure of introducing both of this afternoon's participants. Your host, Ace Burpee, is a host on 103.1 Virgin Radio. He's from Cooks Creek, Manitoba, of course, and also fabulous raconteurs. We couldn't have asked for a better duo to launch into conversation this afternoon. And our guest of honor is, of course, Alan Doyle. I'm ready to come up with my introduction for Alan. So he's here.
Rock and roll. We're being streamed, by the way, live, like into the other part of the building. Thanks, everybody, and thanks for coming in such numbers on a lovely day. And everything. Thanks for coming, everyone. Thanks so much. And it's great to be here. And even though we were both at the same event last night. And,
yeah, I was there last night. I was hosting the main station. You guys were on absolute fire last night. It was awesome. It was so good. It was exactly what people needed last night.
Yeah, well, it's one of those that we were talking about just before it came out. We did like the Grey Cup celebrations, and we go on at 10:15 on Friday night. And if you're looking at the set list you prepared, and if there's any like ballads or like long story, like it's probably not the night to try that one out.
No, we're not looking for deep.
Just go out and set fire to the place as much as you can. And we did set the fire alarm off, I believe, at one point. So that's a win.
No, it was awesome. It was an awesome night. I made sure first thing upon meeting Alan Doyle was now my mom is officially proud of me, which is huge. So that's big. But I just wanted to make sure, and I think it's important with this crowd as well, to establish my East Coast cred, right? Because you can't just come up here like, I'm from here. I'm from Cooks Creek, Manitoba. Fine. But so my old man is from my dad, Alan Burpee, 1L as well. No big deal, right? Those greedy other Allens with their 2 L's. My dad, Al Burpee, is from Bathurst, New Brunswick, and yeah, nice, real nice. You don't get a lot of cheers for Bathurst, New Brunswick out there. Not a ton. And I've been to Newfoundland lots of times. I'm a big fly fisherman, and I've fished the gander and the humber, and I've been to Newfoundland a lot, and I love Newfoundland. And so to be able to talk about Newfoundland is super exciting.
Just to be clear, I have the DNA checker app, and his story checks out.
It's the East Coast DNA checker app.
Put his thumb on it. Oh, Bathurst. Yes, my God.
So also, I should tell y'all, I don't think this will surprise you, but so I have notes, right? Okay. But here's what realistically you need if you're speaking with Alan Doyle. This is realistically what you need. Is literally nothing, because he just tells stories and they are ridiculously good. You are like a born storyteller.
I heard we only got 40 minutes, so she said, that's like half a hello. 40 minutes.
That's 2 questions max.
Questions. That's my opening remarks. Like, cut in half. Doyle from Petty Harbour. Talking. Jesus Christ.
Does Petty Harbour factor into that? Is asking because, you know, a lot of people are from, like, born in a smallish town,
Yeah.
but they leave at a young age, whatever, and go to the big city. But Petty Harbour is like a part of it forever.
Yeah, I grew up, Petty Harbour's a little fishing town about 25 kilometers or so south of St. John's on what they call the Irish Loop, or the southern shore of the Avalon Peninsula, and that's where I grew up. There's like 500 people or whatever, and then I lived there from when I was born in 1987.
He thinks we can't do math? That's how.
Or something. I was born in 1969, and so I lived in Petty Harbour until I graduated high school in 1987, and I moved to the city proper, like around 1987 or the end, first of 1988. When I went to Memorial University of Newfoundland. Thank you. Well, I did secure a Bachelor of Arts in English and Religious Studies. Thank you so much. If anyone has English or religious questions, I'll be available after. Any other spiritual needs will be met. No, it was interesting. One of the cool things that I didn't know until sort of my adult life was that I kind of grew up in the same world that my father grew up in. And I don't mean the same place. I mean the same world. Like the Petty Harbour and a lot of sort of rural Newfoundland places are kind of defined geographically by, you know, the hills and the water and the stuff that don't move, right? So like the footprint, if you took a picture of an overhead, you know, drone shot or whatever of Petty Harbour when I was, say, 10 in 1979, it would look almost identical to what it does today. You know, there's no highway where there was once a path. There's no mall where there was once a meadow. Almost all the houses are the same house as when I was, you know, a kid, or it's a new house built on that spot because there's only so many spots, right? And so there's a constancy to it. And then I guess in the 1960s, and again, I wouldn't have known any of this when I was growing up, but in the 1950s, like when my father was a kid, you know, Petty Harbour and lots of coastal Newfoundland towns were small fishing towns based on the inshore fishery. And you know, there was a fish plant and people had small boats, and that economy, you know, where they sold fish to a merchant and all that stuff. There was hundreds of towns around rural Newfoundland doing that when Canada joined Newfoundland in 1949. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. We took your name, and it's a good marriage. And there was hundreds of towns operating, and then, you know, after Confederation, you know, modern contemporary life of North America started, you know, making its way, thankfully, into Newfoundland and Labrador. Those towns one by one started changing, right? And there was probably, you know, this many of them in 1960. You know, by 1969 there was this many, and by 1979 there was a few that operated almost identically to the way they did in 1959.
Yeah.
And Petty Harbour was one of them. And so I basically grew up in a place when I had in the same world as your father. Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
And that's odd. And in Great Big Sea, remember when I met the guys and we started going around just talking and, you know, driving from St. John's to San Diego and back 470 times. I remember Darryl Power, who used to play bass in Great Big Sea, used to say to me, he said, "Alan, the stories you tell are not like the stories my father tells, they're like the stories my grandfather tells." But how is that possible that you, and I said, "I know, it's so wacky." And so, yeah, I lived there, and you know, one of the one of the things about this whole book, you know, was like, okay, well, if I was born into that kind of Newfoundland, right? And I was, and you know, and then I spent my young life doing it, but then most of Newfoundland and Labrador was, you know, hit hard as soon as I became an adult, you know, in the early 1990s when the big cod moratorium sort of shut down the inshore fishery. So then all these towns around Newfoundland and Labrador that I've been talking about and knew about like my whole young life kind of had to redefine themselves. Like, well, what do we do in Petty Harbour if we don't do that? Like, what do we do in Harbour Grace if we don't do that? What are we here for? What do we do? And part of the whole Smiling Land book was like kind of an attempt to answer that question and to go like, well, okay, well, what's the new Newfoundland and Labrador? What is it like? Because it can't be the same as when I was, you know, when I was 10, because it's, you know, everything, so much has changed, you know, and so it was a wonderful discovery and rediscovery, and led to my pitch to the gang at Doubleday, you know, England Random House, what have you. I said, I want to do this book, and it's going to be follow me around Newfoundland and Labrador, because I knows everything about Newfoundland and Labrador, and then watch me discover I don't know shag all about it at all.
You know what? I did write that in one of my notes, that I do love that, yeah, you do know a lot about Newfoundland, except that you have this quest for more knowledge.
Yeah.
Like, I love stuff like I know a ton about Manitoba, but I love learning new things. And people love that stuff.
I said but 750 times in this book. I didn't think I'd say it 20. I was like, oh. Turns out Port de Schwa is on the go. Didn't know. Look at that.
And there's also, you find out like there's with the, especially with the changes, like when the cod fishing thing went down, but like there's a massive sense of resiliency and like what are we going to do now that you discover all these things about these towns, like why are they still there? I think that's super cool.
It is, and there's a few shining examples that, you know, the world knows about, or even that's the country or whatever. Like, you know, I start the book in Fogo Island, you know, where and I always say that if most of Newfoundland, you know, had to react quickly to the cod moratorium in, you know, the early 1990s, Fogo Island has had 25 cod moratoriums in the last 200 years. Like, they just constantly had to defend their existence and reimagine what life would be like there. And like, they're like the shining example of resiliency and reimagination and sort of dealing with not at all insignificant problems, you know, like, and I love that like, I think it's one of the things I love about, you know, Newfoundland in general is that, you know, we're really good at hard times. Like, we're excellent at it.
Yeah. You know, there's no days where you wake up and go, "That's gonna be easy." We're new.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that one of the many discoveries to this book is that maybe one of the things that is defining about us, and I don't know for sure if this is true. In my heart, I want it to be true, and I believe it might even be true, but like, which is a terrible way to introduce what I'm about to say. But I believe that part of us is that we have, and let me say this first. If you go to places like, I'll just pick on California because it's California, they can take it. But like, I've spent time in California at my friend's house, and they don't get the joy of a nice day.
Yeah.
Because it's almost always nice. Like, it's like, they don't, you know, if a new restaurant shows up down the road, you know, in Santa Monica, you're not that excited because there's 70 awesome one, you know, and I think one of the defining things about growing up where I grew up is there's no expectation that things will be easy today. We don't expect that. We expect it's going to be windy or hard, or the hole that we're going to dig has a rock in it, or the weather is going to be shits, you know, and when it's not, we're like, oh, we're gone.
Yeah. Honestly, it sounds like That sounds a lot like growing up in rural Manitoba, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I couldn't function any other way.
I've long
I
said,
couldn't.
I've long said that one of my favorite discoveries in traveling across Canada for the first time was discovering that people from, you know, the flat part of the country, like Manitoba and Saskatchewan and it's going like, oh, well, quite surprised, they're like us.
Yeah.
Like there's only two, I was saying about Saskatchewan, I was saying, the rural Newfoundland and rural Saskatchewan are the only two places in the world where people at a dance will smile if someone comes in and says, oh, got a flat tire on the truck. Oh. Like, yes, black. And I love that, like, sort of, that whole thing of that, and I know this is an oversimplification, but like, no one's coming. No one's coming, man. You know, like, you got a flat tire on the truck. Well, buddy, you should go fix your flat tire on the truck. You can call that number all you like, and no one's coming. Like, and I believe it even extends to entertainment, and like one of the reasons why,
Sure.
certainly in, you know, in Newfoundland communities, like my community, they have local entertainment and people, because no one's coming.
Right.
Like the Doyles, you heard me say before about it, I was born into the Doyles in Big Harbor. The Doyles are the band.
Right.
Like they were the band, they are the band, they'll be the band long after I'm gone, thank God, you know, and it's just like, and because someone had to be the band. There's no band coming. And if you're, you know, like having spent a bunch of time, you know, like in places like Germany and the United States and UK, I suppose, but let's just say the United States because it's close to us. But like if you're from, I don't know, Midwestern Iowa or something, I don't know, like, you know, from somewhere town, Iowa or whatever. Like if you were an 18-year-old in 1965 in somewhere town, Iowa, Dean Martin or somebody went through there in a bus that summer. They did.
Yeah.
That's what they did all summer long. They went around those places and then on television, and so you probably saw somebody. No one's coming. No one's coming to there. Like, you know, and, sorry, what is it, Creek? What's the name of your town again?
Cook's Creek.
Cook's Creek. Well, did anyone come to Cook's Creek?
No.
Yeah, there you go. If you got a flat tire in Cook's Creek, who fixed the flat tire? You did, that's right. And I love that. I love discovering that the people that were the most like, you know, us, or people from out here, where like, I mean, it doesn't look anything like home, and like, they're not, people are not from the same like ethnic backgrounds or anything. And I remember coming here with Great Big Sea for the first time, and just here in Winnipeg, you know, going like, oh my God, we got like our set list is about boats and waves and our pirates, and they're going to hate our guts. Like, and then they roll into the West End Cultural Center.
Yeah.
Wow, it's fantastic. And you know, the opposite, forgive me, you know, for saying this, like, I mean, I love the other parts of Canada so much. Like, it's, you know, and I spent a couple of summers in Prince Edward Island, and like, you could be totally forgiven for assuming that there would be more similarities between Prince Edward Island and Newfoundland, right? No, like, I mean, it's, you know, it was like, I remember the first time I went to Prince Edward Island, I called my father and I said, Dad, was like, he said, what's it like? And I said, you pick up a handful of sand and you walk down to the store and there's a potato in your hand before you get there. Everything is easy. It is. Like the lobsters walk up from the, and they meet French fries rolling down. And some pretty missus with red hair playing the fiddle over there while, like, you know, someone's boiling, you know, clams or something. And it's like, oh my God. And this is a terrible joke, but this, I'm getting in trouble for this. I think I put this one in the book. It's like when the Lord of the Rings came out, you know, I looked at the movie, like maybe all of us did, maybe, I don't know, maybe this is me, and I'm like, oh, those little heroes of the book. Little Irishy sounding guys. Loves potatoes, loves a song. And it's like, that's us. We're the hobbits. So I'm from the Shire, I guess. Well, then I went to Prince Edward Island. And I went, oh. I'm free. I'm from the Bone Rock of Petty Harbour on the southern shore. I'm not from, this is the Shire. Here in Charlottetown is the Frig, we're the orcs. Oh no. We're the friggin' orcs. Oh, no. Big loud crowd from the rocky caves. Beating everything off all this. I hope I didn't put that in the book anyway.
You know what I was saying to you earlier when we were in the back there is you've done everyone a massive favor here, because how many of you are doing your Christmas shopping today with this book? Besides most of us. So what I'm saying is your book's gonna sell really well, okay, between now and Christmas, but no one's gonna read it because it's all for Christmas
All for
presents. Just
Well,
FYI.
you know, I did have the great, you know, it's like, I don't know. Just trying to figure out how to address this publicly without, you know, especially in a holy shrine like this. But like, I mean, you think like the book numbers came out this week from the first sales, right? The first week of sales, right? You know, the book sold really good, right? And what I do, I put out a freaking book the same week as Margaret Atwood. Come on. Number 2, where number 2? It's like,
Hey, no. No. You also took on Brad Paisley last night and won, so there you go.
putting out a book the same week as Margaret Atwood is like, you know, like going in be the goalie in Wayne Gretzky's comeback or something. Like, it's not gonna go well for you, but
Did you find any, like, because you played, so when Alan goes across this country and a lot of America as well, but like, so like, even when he gets in Winnipeg, right? If he drives past the U of W, he's like, oh, we played at the U of W or the West End Cultural Center, or he's in some random place in Ontario or wherever, and all of those, like, there's always a place that he has played, right? And so in Newfoundland, are there still places where you're like, oh my gosh, I did not know that this was a venue?
yes, oh God, yeah, because one of the interesting things about the how Great Big Sea sort of took off so quickly is that we played a lot in downtown St. John's in the first, you know, 6 or 8 months of the year that we were going in 1993. And at the time, St. John's was really the only part of Newfoundland that had a pub culture.
Yeah.
People would find it hard to believe, but it just didn't exist. There was lots of dances and halls. I played more in rural Newfoundland with my Uncle Ronnie's band than I did ever with Great Big Sea. Because the whole thing about like sort of pub bands in smaller places didn't exist yet. It was dance halls and, you know, Legion halls and dance clubs. And by dances, I mean like dances with a band, you know, like a, and that I did a lot of that with my uncles when I was 16, 17. But so Great Big Sea started and we played in St. John's up and down, you know, George Street and downtown St. John's for 6 or 8 months of 1993. But very quickly, you know, because Sean, Rob, and Daryl had been doing it, you know, quite a successful local band for a while, they already knew the path to get off Newfoundland and to go to start playing at the lower deck and stuff in Halifax.
Yeah.
And stuff. So, and which is what we did. We went right from St. John's. We went from St. John's. We played it in a couple of little Christmas tours around Newfoundland and Labrador. Once in a Christmas tour and once in the Arts and Culture Centers early. But that's it. We play St. John's, sometimes we play festivals in Cornerbrook or the Salmon Festival in Gander or whatever, but most of it instantly went to the mainland. We went to Halifax and we went to Sydney and we went to Bathurst, New Brunswick. For example. One of the biggest fights I ever saw in my life was in Bathurst, New Brunswick.
Oh, you met my uncle.
No, sir, I met your aunt. That's true story. Not that I met your aunt, but it was a female fighter. Tell you later. It was big. It was a hockey rink full. And it was not one. And you know, I don't know if this is typical, you can tell me or not, but like, it was a big racket. And when it was over, everyone just sort of got up and came back in and started dancing again.
Sure, what else are you gonna do?
It was over, there was nobody like got really upset.
Yeah.
Off she went.
I always tell people, like, this is niche, but it's the same thing and you'll appreciate it. But like, so like Saskatchewan guys are really tough.
Yeah.
Okay? But if you get in a hockey fight with a Saskatchewan guy, he's not even mad. It's just,
Oh, yeah.
his face is all, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It,
Well, I remember coming out this way and even in Northern Ontario, you know, in Bathurst too, like just for whatever reasons, just like realizing that, you know, God, my joke for pretty hours, I'm quite tall for our people. And we go like, oh, we're kind of short, stumpy Irish people where I'm from. And
that's why it's good that you're funny and nice.
yeah. New book out, by the way, everybody. How's this conversation going? Are we doing it right? I don't know.
You can literally, like, I think I've only asked 2 questions. You don't need to do, like, it's just so awesome. But I told you, but my sister went, you guys, my sister lives in Toronto. And she's telling me about this musical. Do you know about this? Yeah. So, and everything I've heard about it is this thing's a smash. Now, again, get the book, Smiling Land, Alan Doyle. This has nothing to do with it. But no, this musical's a hit, man.
Yeah, and it, so it's called Telltale Harbour, just for anybody doesn't know. Thank you very much. Myself and my neighbor, Ed Rich, who's some of you may know Ed from his novels, Rare Birds might be his biggest one. He's an amazing novelist. Also writes plays, magazines, everything. Myself and Ed and Adam Brazier, who's the creative director over at the Charlottetown Festival in PI, and a gent named Bob Foster, who's a musical director. 4 of us adapted a movie. The original is a French-Canadian movie that became an English-speaking movie that you might know called The Grand Seduction. It stars Brendan Gleeson, that movie does. And it's really about an Atlantic Canadian town that's lost its plant and is in the running to get a new plant. And but in order to save its town and get the new plant, they have to secure a full-time resident doctor. So in our show, there's a young doctor visiting the town from the deepest part of urban London in the UK, and he's come to this tiny fishing town, and there's this one crazy guy who's convinced that if we all work together and put on a good enough show, that we can convince the young doctor to stay and hence save the town. I play that guy. I remember when we were developing, the first people said, so you're playing the young, sexy doctor? I was like, no.
Everyone, it's a hit. Like, they had to add shows in Toronto, and like every performance that they had, technically, this is insider info, technically was 103% sold out because they had to add standing room. Like, that's awesome, man. I love that.
Fun. I loved it. It was great fun to do. And much like what we were talking about earlier, I mean, one of the reasons I think creating it came somewhat organically to me is because it's about it's called Telltale Harbour, but in my heart, it's Petty Harbour, right?
Sure.
It's a place that they had to reinvent themselves and had to figure out in a hurry, like, how to save the town. And it's really, it's a funny, kind of farcical night out with lots of cool songs, I think, and a cool love story, but really, really lots of funny situations and characters, led primarily by Frank, the guy that I play, who's just a pathological liar. and gets himself in more and more and more trouble as the show goes on. It's like, it's very funny to play him, because he's kind of like me. And the similarities between it and the book are really just, are pronounced to me, because I saw that so often, especially in Petty Harbour. And
Sure.
as soon as I went from being a kid to an adult, the very thing I grew up in was challenged, you know. And what would you do? What would you do if you loved the place and it was called into question? The very thing that you were doing there didn't make sense anymore. And what would you do? What would you do? You know, and like, how far would you go? And those are the heart and soul questions of the Telltale Harbour, and really they're questions that led to the whole Smiling Land book, and about, you know, what have they done? What have the places around Newfoundland and Labrador done to pave a new way forward and a new future for the new Newfoundland and Labrador, I suppose.
I love it. When you say, so we're saying earlier, like,
you see how I dragged it back to the book there?
I know. Did you get
so I can see the crowd from Doubleday, they were in the back, like, they're paying for this, and they're like,
let's talk about the book.
We're promoting the Mervish play here.
This is about the book, this one.
No, but it is, I swear, and I honest to God, I had no notion that the two things were sort of thematically similar until I started doing this book tour last week in Ontario, where I was. And I was like, oh yeah, well, I guess, yeah. I mean, they're both about what do people do when the very reason that they were there in the whole forever, and this place that they love is requires a redefining. What are you willing to do? You know?
Yeah.
Thank God most of the places in Newfoundland and Labrador are more sensible than me and the guy that I play in Telltale Harbour, and they've done quite well.
What were some of those places, or just pick one, where, because you mentioned earlier, you said, oh, a lot when you were touring around. So what was one of those things where you're like, it blew your mind? You had no idea about that story from that place in Newfoundland.
Port au Choix, which is, anybody know about Port au Choix? Yeah. I mean, I knew the name, and I knew it was somewhere on the road north of Rochemorne and before Snanny. Okay. In there somewhere. And oddly enough, one of the pieces of road that I'd never driven on in my life was that road. I'd never driven the Northern Peninsula. And myself and my wife, Joanne, and our son, Henry, he was like 18. We figured it's the last time we're ever going to make him go anywhere with us. So we did a very questionable parenting thing. And we made an 18-year-old get in a van in St. John's and drive to Battle Harbour, Labrador with us.
That's what they love.
Nice little 4,000-kilometer round trip with your eye-rolling 18-year-old. But yeah, so halfway, I mean, lots of people know about Fogo, and lots of people know about, of course, Moore National Park, and lots of people know the history of the airport in Gander. But you know what rolled into Port au Choix just because it was somewhere to stop halfway up the Northern Peninsula or whatever, and then go in and go like, what's that? Well, that's the shipyard. What? It's the shipyard. Huh? What's that? That's the fish plant. What's next to it? The other fish plant. Huh? And what's that out there? Oh, right. That's the National Historic Park. Is out there. Oh, right. This is where the oldest collection of archaeological finds in North America was found. And it's like, oh, 1 second, just 1 second. The car will have to walk across in front of us. It's like in 10 minutes. Like I'm like, oh. And like it was just, there was a half dozen of them in the whole journey of making this book, where I was just like, wow, I don't think I've told a single person to go to Port au Choix in my life.
Right.
Like, and what a shame. And the other big one for me was the Port Peninsula on the west coast of Newfoundland, the French part. It's just out from Stephenville. It's an island, really. It's connected by a very narrow causeway of land. It's what we all think of in Newfoundland and Labrador as the French, the place on the island of Newfoundland where there's a Francophone population, which is sort of true, but also sort of isn't true. But it's radical. First of all, I thought I'd been there before, and I hadn't. I thought one night when we played Stephenville, the Great Big Sea, like in 1994, we left and went in the car to a party, and someone told me we were going to the board or something, and I guess I thought we were, and then when I was driving out there, I was like, oh, that party was up there in that house, like on Main Street in Stephenville. I didn't go to port. It was late, and so it's just geographically not like any other part of the island, right? It's just remarkable, and the settlement out there is different, and the language is very odd in the coolest kind of way. It's not as francophone as I thought it is, but and then it has, you know, a church big enough to play ice hockey in, made of wood that fishermen, and like all this is like surprises, and I was embarrassed, in all honesty, regularly, that I was like, wow, I had no idea that this was here, not a clue.
Well, it's also because Newfoundland's way bigger than.
That was the probably, if someone said what was the surprise, that was,
Yeah.
and I'm embarrassed to admit it, how even wasn't quite like clued into how big it is. Like, I mean, it's a territory of a province, and I hope that's not like a bad thing to say, but it is enormous, right? And I can't remember, someone said it to me, it's in the book, I looked it up, that the square footage of Newfoundland and Labrador is like 10 or 20% bigger than the country of Germany, right? And Newfoundland and Labrador has 520,000 people or something now. Germany has just under 90 million, right? That's the difference. So they're very similar sizes. One has 500,000, one has 92 million or something. You know, and it's enormous. And like to drive around it is challenging and vast and cool if you like that kind of thing. And even like the drive, we left St. John's and we drove over to the west coast, turned right, went up past Portage Fob, Snapney and Lots of Meadows and all that thing, and then took the ferry across where you go to Southern Labrador. Big surprise to me was you don't actually go to Southern Labrador. You land in the far southeastern part of Quebec. You land in a town called Blanc. So think about this for a second. You left the island of Newfoundland where it's noon. You land in Quebec where it's 10:30. You get off the wharf and turn right, and before you get to that bookshelf, it's 12:02. Guess where I'm from? Where the clock jumps 90 minutes in 10 feet. Really bizarre. And then you drive across the Southern Labrador Highway, which is, in my experience, the most unlikely strip of road on earth. Like, it's like Mad Max, you know, crazy billionaire guy has like an egg, you know, at the end of the road that we get in, like when the earth floods or whatever, and then we go to the space station that he built out of Amazon money or whatever. It's like you go 100 kilometers and you don't see anything. Just think about that for a second. You don't see anything. Like, you don't see a tree. You don't see a shed. You don't see a wire. You don't see a wharf. But you see gray rocks and occasionally moss. And you go, you almost pull the car over when you see the moss. And we're driving there, you know, in our Honda Odyssey minivan. And every 30 minutes, you know, a motorcycle passes you with the survival bags on the side of it, you know, and an extra tank, and then there's some Jeep with the tent built into it and stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I'm going, this is bad, man. We get so flat, this is bad. But yeah, so many surprising things, and like so many drives and views and even towns and stuff that were just constantly surprising. And it's never ending. So, and of course, I haven't talked to the people yet. You know, and like you go into these towns, of course, and trust me, like if anyone here thinks, well, of course, Alan, they want to talk to you. You're Johnny Famous Pants. Everyone's going to come. Trust you, me. That don't make a pinch of shite of difference on the wharf in Lanceclair. I'm telling you right now. I get out in the guard, or what we're talking to me, and you get out in the guard, I'm going to go talk to you. Like that's it. And yeah, and it's just wondrous, like all this. And part of the book, of course, is just observations on some of the wonderful, weird things that make Newfoundland a weird and wonderful place. You know, and it's like it's crazy madness. You know, it's a place where we have a weather-dependent holiday. How's that for you? Or like just yeah.
You might be the easiest person to interview in the history of the world.
I thought I was interviewing you.
You're so good. Like I haven't even used my what did I?
Oh, sorry, get to your notes. That's that. You've done some work. Sorry, you go ahead.
No, wait, you know what's stressing me up? This has almost been 45 minutes. Like that felt like that's just. No, I'm stressed. Look at this. I made all that. I didn't even know. I don't know. Oh yeah, I remember I showed you that one. That's not about the book though. That was I showed you that. Okay. Hey, I'm asking you that one from earlier.
Okay.
I said a lot of people in Winnipeg and Manitoba, if you ask them a name of someone that they associate with Newfoundland, a lot of people would say Alan Doyle, right? If I say that to you, who's the name you associate with Manitoba? What comes to mind? Oh, nice. Guess who? The Guess Who is back.
Yeah.
They're allowed to use the Guess Who name again.
Yeah.
They've been in litigation for like 20 years or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I never met. I think I might have met Burton backstage at a festival one time, but I met Randy and wrote a couple of songs with Randy a few times. And then, but like I think I mentioned it in an earlier book. I think this is the first time I ever said that in my life. Like, look at me being the famous author. It's in one of my earlier books.
In one of my books, there's so many.
One of my earlier best-selling books. Take that back for that one. Take that.
She'll get you.
No. She's tech savvy too.
She's powerful.
She's powerful. Big fan. Big fan. In one of my earlier books, the one about Canada, I mentioned in it what a crazy disproportionate percentage of the Canadian music industry is based in Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Okay.
And I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but it's like, if you add up like the Guess Who and Chantal and Barbara, the list this long of the original music that's been made in this city or by people in the city, it was like 27 million records or something.
Yeah.
Came out of Winnipeg, Manitoba. It's crazy what a music town it is. And yesterday, a friend, Johanna, who played fiddle with us last night. This is wonderful. Yeah. It was her first time in Winnipeg.
Yeah, that's not even her.
Yeah.
That's not even the regular. He's telling me fiddle player. She was unbelievable last night. The other one was Shania or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
Kendall Carson usually plays with us. She's amazing, and she's got this other small gig with Shania Twain, and so she couldn't make it. But so Johanna subbed in, and she's amazing, and she's from she lives in Ottawa area now, but she's originally from Fairbanks, Alaska, and she'd never been to Winnipeg. And I was like, what? Like, how do you play music anywhere like between like Berlin and China and not play Winnipeg, Manitoba? Like everybody plays here. It's the greatest audience. So we took her around and I showed her like down by my walk, the walk I always do in Winnipeg, which is to go down, to the water and walk along the river till you get to the forks, and you go up to the big grounds to by the forks, and then you go into the the coffee shops and stuff, and buy a book at McNally Robinson and and then the pro in the forks, and you'll go around there and then go by the fancy hotel, for Gary, yeah, and you go in I kept telling her yesterday, I said, you got to go to the circular room, it's fantastic. It's called the Oval Room. Great spot, and then you gotta go, I probably shouldn't say this. You gotta go to the, the legislature building.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous, right? You gotta go to the men's room. You been there? You know what I'm talking about? The urinals are for kings, like giant kings. Like, who pees here? It's like this marble altar of urination, like absolutely fantastic. Like, well, don't worry about missing. I'm serious. Anyway, so it snuck her into the men's can. By the way, I've never been in the ladies' can down there, but I have no idea if it's that posh. But you should come over. Just come over and see it one day. That's amazing. I would never usually tell people to come check out the urinals. But my next book is going to be about the urinals in Canada.
Not the worst idea.
Take a pee with me.
This is one of the best book things of all time.
Okay. Sure.
Hey, who are they? Doubleday producers? What are they called?
Oh, they like Penguin Random House Doubleday.
Yeah. We love them. So to make them happy, no, we do. To make them happy, because you're gonna get cut off right away, is if someone is on the fence about purchasing the Smiling Land, you would like to say, no, you should get it because.
There's a lovely picture of me in the front of it. Come on. That's not iPhone filters, that's high-end filters. Look at that. Roguish pirate fella, kitty bitty. Yeah, I'm not sure if we did this right, but it was pretty
Oh, it's awesome. And I'll tell you, I said this casually at the beginning, but in all seriousness, and a lot of you will understand how serious this is it like my mother is so freaking proud of me right now for for sitting next to you, so thank you. I'm serious. Like this is big.
You win. I was like, when I got to meet Anne Murray a few weeks back, she came to our play and I got a photo. I was like, give me a photo with Anne Murray. And I like, I was gonna like what you would normally do if you weren't like an insanely competitive person. You would send it to your mother right away. Yeah, I didn't. I sent it to my brothers and sisters. I said, the champ. You can take your medical and your engineering degree and stick it. I'm getting the first slice of bread every day.
That's the best. Thank you. That was amazing. Oh my God.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much.
Well, I can't follow that up. Oh, we are going to move along to the signing section, so we're going to shift Alan into the arms of my colleague Angela, who will transport him to the signing table.
Into the arms.
We will ask you all to remain in place for one moment, please, because if we cannot get Alan to the table, there can be no signing at all. And you'll have to put up with me saying a few things about signing procedure, but you will get to applaud for Alan another time at the end. So rest assured, or now. So, a few important things to remember. All the copies in the store are signed. We have signed copies available for sale at the cash desk. Alan will personalize books in the signing line, so we'll run down and write your name and on a Post-it note and adhere it to the inside, so you can spend more time chatting than spelling. There will also be somebody there to help with photos, so have your camera out and ready to go so that we can just take a quick photo.
Nice.
If you do have mobility issues and cannot stand in line, please just flag yourself to a bookseller and we'll beg all of your forbearance that will just ship those folks up to the front of the line. And also the only thing, and most important, because we are capitalists at heart, is we will ask you to pay for the books before you leave the store, please. We really appreciate that. We're so grateful to Doubleday Canada, to all of you for spending this afternoon with you. Please join me in acknowledging the best host we could have asked for, Ace Burpee.
Also, before we all run away, you know what's the best? Hopefully, well, if you still can hear this, that's okay. But like, you know when you're super excited to meet someone and you built up those expectations and then they over deliver? That is like, he is awesome. Like that was the coolest. He's just exactly what you hope and 10 times more.
Thank you all, folks. Have a wonderful afternoon.